you're hearing me break all this down. They're selling us cultural death so that we just get used to squalor and corruption and death and tyranny and evil and injustice so that we have no compass so they can overrun us. David Knight.
Absolutely, Alex. And what they're doing is they're also, as you mentioned, they're attacking the family. And no better example of this is the memos that we saw from Lieutenant Jack Rich, Lieutenant Colonel, I should say. And now we've got some information from a Mr. Michael Weinstein. He is a founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. And, you know, they're portraying the American Family Association, the Family Research Council, Focus on the Family. They're portraying them as hate groups. And we've seen the Family Research Council actually physically attacked with a guy who wanted to shoot it up. And he was a follower of the script from the Southern Poverty Law Center. And yet those organizations have never engaged in the kind of hate speech that we see coming out of the Southern Poverty Law Center people. Listen to what this guy said, and to understand who this guy is. Now, the other guy was a lieutenant colonel. This guy is a consultant to the Pentagon to develop new policies on religious tolerance. And, of course, one of those policies is court-martialing military chaplains who share the gospel during spiritual counseling in the military. So listen to what he says about James Dobson. He says that he illustrates the extremist militant nature of these virulently homophobic organizations and their rhetorically charged propaganda.
I'm gonna call you guys, okay?
Let's call these ignoble actions what they are, the senseless and cowardly squallings of human monsters. And then he says we need to support and applaud Lieutenant Colonel Frank Rich, Jack Rich, who attacked the American Family Association and Family Research Council. He says we should vigorously support the continuing efforts to expose pathologically anti-gay, Islamophobic, and rabidly intolerant agitators for what they are. Die-hard enemies of the U.S. Constitution, monsters one and all. To do anything less would be to roll out a red carpet to those who would usher in a blood-drenched, draconian era of persecutions, nationalistic militarism, and superstitious theocracy. So that's what he's calling for. And one last thing I'm going to say. What he does is he goes further in his remarks to link sexual assault in the military to proselytizing in the military, to sharing the gospel with someone. He calls that spiritual rape. So I've never seen such over-the-top rhetoric, and yet this is a guy who is a consultant to the military. But the way Christians need to react to this, I think, is not to get caught up in this culture war of us versus them and piling on. Now that it looked like initially that Christians and constitutionalists are going to be in the crosshairs of those who are going to be blamed for the Boston bombing. And now that they're blaming Islamicists on this, we need to not just pile on and say, yeah, kill all the Muslims, because what's happening with this is we're seeing really kind of a narrative set up on this. And these brothers may have, in fact, done it. They may have been patsies. They may have had a part in it, but they are not the lone bombers. And there was not a lone radicalizer. What we've seen coming out in the last several days, it's clear to everyone, including a pretty funny clip from George W. Bush. He came out and he actually talked about, well, I think this might have been and he stopped right in the middle of that word, conspiracy. And they were asking him to compare it to the 9/11 bombings. And so he said this might be another conspiracy is what he was starting to say, and he backed off on that. But the bottom line is that they're trying to, everybody knows that these guys were not acting alone. And so what's the bigger story here? And they're trying to pin this on a guy, some mysterious Misha. And so the press is saying that they found Misha. But the guy that they're fingering is actually a guy who lives in Rhode Island in a small house with his elderly parents. He doesn't have a lot of money to give these brothers new sports cars like they were reportedly driving around in. And in terms of him being a radical Islamic recruiter, his father escaped Armenia as an Armenian Christian who was under, I'm sorry, not Armenia, but he escaped Azerbaijan under Islamic persecution as an Armenian Christian. So they're kind of running into a dead end with that. But they also need to explain this pretty lavish lifestyle, this secular lifestyle they supposedly radical Islamic terrorists were leading. So they're coming out with a story that's everywhere today, all over the news.
Absolutely, and remember, it was Misha. Absolutely. And going out to break here, it was Misha that supposedly said he loved InfoWars. Well, now Misha has been interviewed by 2 different papers. He said he barely, one said didn't even know him or barely knew him, didn't give him any funding. This is all just complete bull. He didn't say any of that. Why would they try to write InfoWars.com into the narrative? Because I'm the one saying intelligence agencies sent the older brother to Georgia under a CIA program, and no one has challenged that, what came out in the Russian press.
Absolutely.
This is smoking gun info. They're funding and radicalizing and setting up patsies to take our liberties.
I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com.
Okay, folks, Alex Jones here, back live. Your call's coming up immediately at the start of the next hour. But if you look at all these articles that are out, the immigration bill gives immediate access to welfare for the illegals and no prosecution for fake IDs. Now, I have friends that have been arrested for an expired driver's license. I know people in Austin arrested for not having their seatbelt on. That's been national news. But if you're an illegal alien, you can literally drink and drive. It's on record. You can do anything you want. If the cops do arrest you, you're let go on a $10 fine. The illegals get to come here and have their babies for free. And again, I'm not even against these people. If I was in their country, I'd do it too. The globalists are doing it to bankrupt the nation while throwing the book at citizens. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, or purple, or green. This is discriminatory. Government picks winners and losers, and it's terrible. But then they use all this anger to go, look at these terrorists. They did it when they killed one. We're going to play the clip coming up in the next hour. We do have that clip now, correct? You know, saying while they're being shot at, we didn't do it, we didn't do it. Look, if the CIA funded them, just admit it and then say they were double agents or something, or say, okay, we had a drill. But they don't want to look at any of that. And, you know, the big issue is here, they're then using all the anger over welfare to point at this and to make a big issue out of it over and over and over again, like, oh, look, they got their money from welfare when they were getting more money than they could have gotten from welfare. Just like the supposed Aurora shooter got $30-something thousand a year in a DARPA funding. Now, the truth is these guys were being handled. Now, there's 1 chance in 100 they could have been real double agents who double-crossed and bombed, but they don't fit that profile. So, bottom line, government is the author of this again to take our freedoms. David Knight putting bookends on that.
Yeah, it's there's articles all over the web about how they got $100,000, and people are assuming that's over just 1 year. There's only 1 or 2 sources that I've seen. One of them is WCVB in Boston, television station there. They reported that that's been since 2002. In other words, that's something over a decade. So first of all, divide that number down by 10. So that's about $10,000. That's also for the family. That's not just for these boys. That would be the parents that were there. But what they're ignoring is J.P. Morgan got $560 million in processing welfare payments. And before I get to that, though, let me just say that one of the reasons I believe that they're doing this, publicizing this $100,000 figure, is because they have to explain all the fancy cars and the secular lifestyle that these supposedly radical Muslims were living, these Muslim terrorists that they're portraying them as. And they don't have a source that can explain that. So they're trying now to take the cumulative welfare recipient receipts for a period of 10 years and imply that they got all that money at once, because this guy that they fingered as the mysterious Misha is absolutely a dead end. I mean, even the fact that the people that supposedly fingered him are now both dead. But again, he's somebody who doesn't have any money. Even if he was a radicalizer, even if he rejects his Armenian Christian father's faith, he came here to escape persecution for being a Christian, and supposedly his son is now a radical Islamic, radicalizer. But even if you buy that, the guy doesn't have the money, so they're trying to do that. But we reported on the story about J.P. Morgan getting $560 million, and they're making money off of every food stamps transaction. And this is something that they're plugging. The Department of Agriculture is actually sending Spanish flyers to Mexico.
Oh, no. 15 years ago, I saw articles where California State was putting ads in Spanish-speaking papers in Mexico saying, come here, have your baby for free, and then you all get on welfare. They want to bankrupt the country. And then citizens literally do not get any of these services. So this is the goal. This is the plan. David Knight, thank you so much. You'll pop in again at the very end of the show today with a news update. Eric in Mass, you're on the air. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Alex. 2-year listener, first-time caller. I just want to say thank you, and I love you for waking me up.
Well, we love you guys out there as well for fighting for liberty, man. This is pretty scary stuff, and it's good to meet so many like-minded people. I've been mobbed here in Hot Springs, Arkansas with listeners.
Yeah. First thing I want to get into is, did you see the CNN headline yesterday where Syria came out and said that the West is manipulating the evidence of weapons of mass destruction just like they did in Iraq? I mean, this
Yes, and then it was called a conspiracy theory that, they have a conspiracy theory that we lied about Iraq when everybody knows they did. Well, now that's a conspiracy theory. And then Assad also said you're using Al-Qaeda against us, which is illegal, which is on record. And they called that a conspiracy theory. So I'm looking outside. It's a sunny day. In fact, I'm going to aim the camera out there so everybody can see it. It's a sunny day out there. But no, that's a conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen. That is a conspiracy theory that any of this is going on. What do you make of that?
Oh, I completely agree. This whole Boston Marathon bombing is Obama's 9/11. It followed the same thing over and over again. First it was the bombing, then it was the ricin. Now it's weapons of mass destruction. It's the same thing over and over again. I mean, and people don't understand it. No matter how many times I say it, people don't get it. I live about maybe 40 minutes from Boston. I was actually in Boston that day that the bombing happened. And one thing I forgot to mention is I was going to call in a couple weeks ago, and my father was actually driving up to Boston the day, Friday one day, a couple weeks ago, before the bombing, and he saw Homeland Security tanks being brought in there. That was about 2 weeks before the bombing. So, I mean, people out there can do the math for themselves.
Well, again, that's the kind of thing reporters look at, and we've gotten a lot of calls about that. We're told, hey, there was a drill. Turns out it's in the paper. Then they say, no, there wasn't. Don't look at these photos. Troops everywhere, 400 troops, thousands of police. And yes, we've gotten the intel. You should have your father contact us. He should go on record and say what he saw. But yeah, how could they have what looked like 100 armored vehicles and all that at once if they didn't pre-deploy it? And that's the thing about these staged events is that, you know, they put out a nice story. Hey, it's the foreigners. America, you're sick of foreigners running all over you. Isn't it fun? They did it, but we killed them. USA, USA. And it's all a fraud. It's all a hoax.
And another thing I wanted to bring up, I didn't hear you cover this, but if you go on the Social Security Death Index record, it shows that Adam Lanza, the guy who supposedly shot up that school in Sandy Hook, was actually killed a day before the shooting ever happened in New Hampshire. And I found that on 3 different websites. So I've had people tell me, oh, it was probably a glitch with the site. But I found 3 different websites where it all says the same thing.
Well, the last thing they want you to do is investigate. You're supposed to sit there and believe what known liars tell you. Here's what I need to say to you. Your dad needs to go on record with how many armored vehicles he saw beforehand and what happened. That's why anytime, folks, you see something happening, you see something, say something about these occupiers, these globalists that have occupied us. God bless you, sir. I appreciate your call. And, yeah, the whole Adam Lanza thing stinks to high heaven. Do I know exactly what happened? No. But if the globalists would say that 500,000 dead Iraqi kids was a good price to pay, then your life's worth nothing as well. The globalists are known, certified, lying, murdering killers. And you believe what they say at your own peril. More calls coming up.
Hi, Ted Anderson, president of Midas Resources. With over 30 years of experience in the precious metals business, I can tell you without a doubt, we are facing the most dangerous and volatile times, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Peace of mind is gold and silver. Now is the time to invest in gold. When it comes to bullion coins, our prices are competitive and the closest to melt. If it's numismatics you're looking for, we have some of the best deals out there. Visit MidasResources.com today or go to Infowars.com and click on the link to see our daily specials. Here's an example of one of our long-term specials we've been offering for more than a year. 2 silver dollars from the turn of the last century, plus 2 powerful films, The Obama Deception and The American Dream. We also add in the book Dishonest Money, all for $72 and free shipping. The most trusted name in precious metals is Midas Resources. Call 1-800-686-2237 or go to Infowars.com. I'm Ted Anderson with Midas Resources.
We are now only entering the edge of a global financial superstorm, the likes of which the planet has never seen. Here in the United States, the private Federal Reserve is giving more than $85 billion of taxpayer money a month to themselves and other offshore foreign banks. And the worst part is, we have to pay the bank's interest on the money we give them. There is now a race between the global central bank mafia cartels to see who can devalue their country's currencies the fastest. We are already seeing big increases in inflation at the grocery store and the gas line. This will eventually lead to hyperinflation. More than a dozen top globalists like George Soros have been buying record amounts of gold while at the same time bad-mouthing it to the public. Don't just listen to what they say. Watch what they do. For more than 6,000 years of recorded human history, gold has been the ultimate hedge against uncertain times and inflation. Before investing in metals, it is important to do your own research and find a reputable company. Midas Resources has the highest Better Business Bureau rating of an A+. Unfortunately, very few precious metal companies can boast that. Midas Resources has assembled one of the most educated, researched, and professional teams of brokers in the industry. The evidence is overwhelming. In uncertain times, gold and silver is safe harbor. Now is the time to invest in gold. Call 800-686-2237 and Midas Resources will mail you 10 reasons to own gold absolutely free. No shipping. It's absolutely free. And finally, Ted Anderson wants to challenge you to find any deal that comes close to his 2 silver dollars at cost with free shipping with 2 free films and a book for $72. That's more than $160 value for $72 shipping included. Click the link at Infowars.com to go to the MidasResources.com specials page. Brought to you by MidasResources.com and Ted Anderson, the trusted name in precious metals.
Let's go back to your calls, and then we've got Mark Anderson of American Free Press to talk about Jim Tucker and Bilderberg 2013 coming up. And before we go to him, I'll get to the audio and video. It's in a newscast up on Infowars.com. Boston bombers during a shootout. We didn't do it. Chill out, chill out, chill out, chill out. We didn't do it, we didn't do it, we didn't do it. Hey, officer. And then later he comes out of the boat. He's not bleeding out of the neck. Special surgery, no more talkie. And then they announce he admits he did it. That sounds like a free country. They ever got me in the hospital? Alex says he did it. Alex, he admitted to us. That's not what you do in a free country. You're like, I don't deserve a free trial. If they take their free trial, you lose yours. You lose yours, and don't worry, you will. It's what you want. Dr. Davis. Dr. Davis, you're needed on level 7, please. You're on the air from Florida, sir.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good. Listen, the reason I'm calling is that you obviously have spent a tremendous amount of energy studying history, and I was curious, has there ever been a tyranny of psychopaths like we have today that dynastically go back hundreds of years, if not some people claim, thousands of years? They're like Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, these people have no conscience. Have they ever been intimidated into stepping down in a peaceful way? Or has it always had, like our founders, after spending so much time and energy trying to speak to the king and trying to get him to back away from his policies, ultimately it came to the sword? I'm just wondering, is this the first time in history that we're attempting to try and take down an amazing tyranny? I mean, the brilliance with which they've affected this is undeniable, and the completeness of how they've attacked us: food, air, water, education, health. I mean, every single aspect of our lives has been taken over by these people. And in order to change this, I understand that you don't advocate violence. I'm not asking you to make that statement. I'm just saying
that was a really good caller. And did he drop off or did I drop off, guys? Okay, well, I lost my audio feed from the caller for a moment. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just saying that because of the completeness of this tyranny, which has affected every aspect of our lives, will this be the first time, if we're successful at turning back this tyranny in the way that we're trying to, through an info war, will this be the first time that psychopaths have ever been turned away without the use of violence?
That's a great question, and here's the answer. The Pentagon, in its own research papers, in its own reports, says that 90% of war is info war. So understand, they use lies and twisting and dumbing down. We use truth and energizing and empowering and telling you you're good and telling you you have a future, because you do if you believe it. Resistance is victory. So 90% of war in modern warfare, the last 60 years, that's the number. Some argue it's like 99%. In the past, it was 50-50. Most statisticians and military historians have said. So right now we're in a war. This is war. They're trying to kill my credibility with lies. I'm trying to kill their credibility with truth. You're a soldier in this fight. If you know history, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, starting about 500 years ago, started very, very small and little bitty victories and little people learning to just disdain the establishment, disdain the corrupt, and not just follow orders blindly. But it was also people in the establishment who weren't psychopaths and weren't sociopaths in their own families who got in love with beauty and got in love with empowerment. And you see, because there's always the good, the bad, and the ugly in society, and the bad aren't the only actors. So yes, there are technocracies, but a lot of times it's good people in the technocracy that say no, that hold it up. That's why the New World Order is more like 20 years behind. Most of their statisticians say 10. Most of their tacticians say 10. So it's an incredibly serious, huge issue. I can talk for hours on what you've raised. We hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You see all the guns getting bought? You see everybody training, body armor getting bought? Nobody's going to a FEMA camp. If they want a civil war, they're going to get one. But we right now are hitting them and affecting the battlefield space in the info war, and it's savage, and it's intensifying because we're effective. We're over the target.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.